Welcome to Connect with County Leaders. Here's your host, Bryan Hill.
Hello and welcome to Connect with County Leaders. I'm Bryan Hill. On this edition of the podcast, I'm joined by Chris Falcon, Clerk of the Court for the Fairfax County Circuit Court. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Bryan, thank you very much for having me on this morning. I really appreciate it.
So you know why I did what I just did. Is it Falcon or Falcon? Because the first day I met you, I said Falcon, and you looked at me and you said, how'd you know that?
Yeah, well, you said it right. I mean, it's a good question. It's Falcon is the original pronunciation of my last name. My dad is from Peru, and he came to this country in 1971, and it's spelled Falcon, but over the years, he just got tired of correcting people's pronunciation, but the name is Falcon.
Falcon. I just want to put that on the record because I think I had it right first.
You did.
Okay. All right. So first, you've been in this position for nearly a year now, actually 10 months, 11 months. Share with us more about your background and what led you to take this important position, because I know you came from Arlington. I know you're a lawyer. So what made you come to run for Circuit Court? And thank you for coming and being a part of Fairfax County.
Thank you, Bryan. I really appreciate that question. So I was born and raised here in Fairfax. I grew up in Falls Church. My parents both came to this country from South America. My mom is originally from Ecuador. She came here in 1968, lived in DC for a short time. And then, as I mentioned earlier, my dad is from Peru. But they moved to Fairfax County because they heard this was a welcoming place to start a family, and that's where our story begins. But I grew up, I went to the Fairfax County Public Schools. Shout outs to Pine Spring Elementary, Mantua Elementary, Frost Middle School, Woodson High School. I owe so much to the teachers, the educators, and the people that had a lot of patience with a young Chris Falcon when he was growing up. But that's where my story begins. I then went on to James and Madison University, as you can see today.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Go Dukes. But I then decided to go to law school. So I went to law school. I came back to this area as an attorney. Okay. And then about 11 years ago, I decided to go ahead and come into public service and to go work for the court system in Arlington, as you mentioned. Okay. I was a deputy clerk and legal counsel to the clerk of the Circuit Court of Arlington, and I was there for about a decade before I came over here and came home to Fairfax County as your county clerk of the court.
Well, I'm glad that you are here with us, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say this publicly. I'm going to get you a Duke Dynasty shirt. It was a group of young people at James Madison, Carson Alexi. He sent a Duke Dynasty shirt to Jeff McKay and myself to publicize what he was doing for underprivileged kids in Harrisonburg, and that you guys have a really good collection of folks that go to the James Madison. So I will find a shirt for you so you can be a part of the Jeff McKay, Bryan Hill crew.
I would love that.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So let me ask you, I mean, we talk about Circuit Court, but what's the mission of Circuit Court?
Absolutely. Our mission is to provide equitable access to justice and court services, to provide support to the 19th Judicial Circuit and the 15 Circuit Court judges, and to protect and maintain the court's records. That's our mission. Okay,
and you have a lot of responsibilities and your priorities leading the Circuit Court. I mean, where are you trying to change or enhance? I know you're doing a lot of great things.
Thank you. So at the beginning of the day, we have certain statutory responsibilities. So we have over 800 duties under the Virginia Code that we are responsible. So we are always going to have those. We're always going to be the place people come to record their deeds when they sell their homes, when they buy property. We're always going to be the office that issues the marriage licenses. By law, it says that if you want to get married in Virginia, you need to have a marriage license issued by a county clerk of the court. We're always going to be the office where people go to register the wills for their loved ones when they pass away. But on top of all those other duties that we have, I do think we can do a little bit extra to provide better service to our county residents. We can do the things that we're required to do by law, but we can also make it a little bit easier for our neighbors who we know have a difficult time going in the middle of a workday to the county courthouse for a variety of reasons. So that's why we've really been intentional about finding ways to make services more accessible and a little bit easier for our neighbors.
Now, I remember the first email I received from you, and you said that you wanted a satellite facility. And I went to my staff, our team, and I'm like, who is this Chris Falcon asking for another building? But that's not exactly what you wanted, but that is exactly what you got. If I understand, Kathy Hudgens Center. You're doing some great work there. Why don't we publicize that a little bit?
Thank you very much for bringing that up. So the second Tuesday of every single month in Reston, we have our satellite circuit court clerk's office. And during that Tuesday from 9 a.m. to noon at the Kathy Hudgens Community Center in Reston, people can come and apply for marriage licenses. This past one, we had 5 couples come. The number is increasing every single time as we get the word out about the service. But people can also come and get free notary service. That's actually something that's not required by law to provide, but our office does it anyways. We realize that it's sometimes difficult to find a notary public out there. So we're providing that service for free at the satellite location. It's also available there for people to come in and get copies of their court records. When people become retirement age, they need to get sometimes copies of certain records that are on file with us. And for a number of reasons, they need to provide it for Social Security and to other agencies. So we've also started accepting the filing of legal documents at our satellite, and we plan to expand the different services that we're offering there.
So you are full in with One Fairfax. I mean, because you're just explaining some of the equity gaps. I'm sure there are others. But as you know, the chairman of the board in 2017 came up with our policy statement. We have been operationalizing One Fairfax. Here you are 10 months in and you're hit the ground running. Tell me how gratifying that is to know that you are actually moving and advancing the circuit court so much further ahead than others have. Not saying they didn't do a great job, but you're taking it from a different spin.
Bryan, I got a chance serving on the Human Services Council, the Fairfax Human Services Council, for 5 years before I ran for elected office to get to work, live, breathe the One Fairfax policy and really get to understand what it meant to be able to provide services, to be thinking about all of our neighbors and residents anytime we come up with a policy. So I don't think I've ever shared this before, but the first time I met the fantastic Carla Bruce, I walked up to her and I introduced myself as the person who was going to operationalize One Fairfax at the circuit court. So that's why we're doing things like providing satellite service, because we realize transportation is a major equity gap for our residents here in Fairfax County, and it is difficult for people that live in Mount Vernon or Lorton to get all the way to the courthouse that's located on Fairfax County property, but wholly within Fairfax City, right? And it's difficult for people that are in Herndon and Reston to do the same thing. So that's why we identified that area in Reston, an amazing part of Reston that's economically, ethnically diverse, feeds into a Title I elementary school as a great first place for the satellite office. But transportation, childcare, there are many of our neighbors who don't have access to childcare, and we're making it easier for them by finding ways to connect them with the information, connect them with the services. But one of the major ones, I got to tell you, is access to counsel, to legal counsel. If you walk around our building, the circuit court and the courthouse, you will see so many of our neighbors that are representing themselves in very important cases. I don't know that most people realize this, but you have a guarantee to counsel in criminal matters, but not in civil cases.
That's right.
So you don't have a guarantee to legal counsel in divorce, in child custody, in child support cases, in eviction cases. Right. But I do want to applaud Fairfax County government and the board for funding an eviction pilot program to help people with counsel in those cases. That's making a big difference, but we still have so far to go. There was recently a study done, and in Virginia, the majority of circuit court cases have at least one party who is self-represented and is handling these things on their own. So if you walk around the courthouse, you will unfortunately see a lot of our neighbors who are doing the best they can, or they're looking for a lawyer, they're asking you, are you an attorney, because they need help in those moments. So I think we have a duty as Fairfax County government, and I have a duty as an elected official to respond to that moment. So that's why we're also connecting people with legal aid clinics, different services like our new self-help resource center in the library, so that people know they can go into our law library and talk to a staff member who can assist them with the forms and assist them with the process. But the other big one I gotta mention is language access. I think it's fantastic that we live in such a diverse county where over 38% of people speak a language other than English at home. I grew up in one of those houses. Mi primer idioma es español. My first language is Spanish, and I'm very proud of that. But if you walk around the courthouse, you're also going to see a lot of people who are relying on the assistance of interpreters.
That's right.
Who do a fantastic job, but there's just not enough of them, Brian. So I actually think AI is a place that we need to be looking at to be able to provide a little bit extra to our neighbors, because it's getting very, very good, the AI technology with language abilities.
Translation services. Yep. Yeah. So you mentioned Carla Brew. She's now at Race Forward. We worked 7 years hand in hand trying to figure out a way to operationalize One Fairfax. We have a county-wide strategic plan adopted by the board. We also now have a Director of Immigrant Services, Carol Escalante, going to various pockets within our large jurisdiction, 409 square miles, and talking to people who typically have not been spoken to. You are also helping us with that. And then we have e-case search. So the e-case search, what does that solve for you as we talk about translation services? Because this morning or today I was at Fairfax County Public Schools State of the Schools. I was always saying there's 160 different languages in our schools. Today I was told there's 200 different languages or dialect. So obviously you're doing a great job in embracing everybody, but e-case searches, how do we translate those? Because that's going to be a totally different, and you do mention AI. We got a lot of AI going to talk about that as well, but how are you trying to mix and blend all of this into one?
So e-case search always makes me smile whenever it comes up, because it's a fantastic story about Fairfax County staff coming together. It was a key part of my campaign for this office to call out that Fairfax County was the only county in Virginia that was charging people for their public case information. So that means if you wanted to find out what was happening in your case or in any other case in Circuit Court in Fairfax, you had to pay for a program called the Court's Public Access Network, CPAN, or you had to physically go into the court or call for that information. But every other county, you could just go on a public website that the Supreme Court runs and go down, scroll down, and find your county and find out what was happening in the case. So I called that out. That was a major barrier to information. It was a major equity gap. And right away when I got into that office, I talked with our staff and I said, this is our #1 priority. We have to stop that. We have to make this information accessible. And to the credit of the Fairfax Circuit Court IT team, they said, Mr. Falcon, we'd like an opportunity to create it in-house. We would like to pitch you on how we can do that here and not go to the state Supreme Court or not go to an outside vendor, but make it fully in-house in Fairfax County. And thank you to the Department of Information Technology, DIT, for working with our staff and creating e-case search, which is a program that is currently on our website. You can go to the Fairfax Circuit Court site, look at e-case search, and you can search case information. Finally, it went live on July 1st, and then you can now see what's happening in your cases, but also in the community. That was a big concern as I was campaigning for the office from people that lived in Oakton. What's happening in that case that happened here where the girls got killed by the car? And I said, well, that information is actually blocked behind a paywall right now, so I can't find that out. But I will change that, right? And we have. And the other cool part of it is wholly created in Fairfax County by Fairfax County staff. And then a staff member from our IT team said, could we also provide it in other languages? Could we also provide it in Spanish and Arabic? So we're delivering that program, not just in English, but it can be translated into the other 6 most frequently spoken at home languages in Fairfax County, aside from English. So anyone that's listening, go and check out e-case search on our website. It is such a thing that I am proud of. It's helping a lot of people. We had over 52,000 searches in the first 2 months the program went live. And that's without me really doing a marketing campaign for it. We're finally, doing, I think, a better job of getting the word out about this program. But I think it's transformational.
So people don't understand. It takes time for folks to understand what we are doing as a human services perspective, as a court perspective. We have a Korean access on our Instagram pages because Asian Americans are 24% of our population. Obviously, Hispanic Americans are 16% of our population. And within those populations, which are, believe it or not, that's 40%, they're different dialects.
That's right.
And if you say hello one way, it might be something different in another way. And we have to be very conscious of that. And that's part of One Fairfax, understanding that we're all the same, but we all bring it in differently. And I love how you are taking the circuit court into the 21st 2nd and 3rd century. So we do appreciate that. What is the Historic Records Center, and what role does it play within your clerk's office?
Oh, so the Historic
I'm
Archives.
asking pretty good questions.
You are, yeah. The Historic Archives, thank you. So I don't know how many people know this, but we have George Washington's will at the Historic Archives at Fairfax Circuit Court. And we're open to the public. On Fridays, you can come and get tours of our Historic Archives. You can make an appointment, it's not required, but you can come and see the documents that date back to the formation of our county, 1742. We have an oath form that's actually signed by both George Washington and George Mason. We have some of the most amazing historic records, and they're available for our residents to come in and see. So what we're trying to do is highlight our history, not hide from our history, but actually highlight it. Some parts of it are uncomfortable. So our Judicial Learning Center is something we're working on establishing in Fairfax County. We would be the first Judicial Learning Center out of Circuit Court, and this is a supplement to the 8th grade tours program that we currently have, where 8th grade middle schools come in and get a tour of the court and get to see a live case. We are going to be supplementing that by highlighting a couple of Fairfax cases that had civil rights implications to supplement the curriculum that's already happening during the 8th grade program. But we're very excited about this. We're working along with our Chief Judge, Penny Oscarate, Judge Steve Shannon, and other stakeholders, including our County Attorney's Office, to launch this Judicial Learning Center at our Historic Archives next year. So
what I just heard is that you're going to bring me over for a tour.
That's right.
Of the
I'll be talking to your scheduler.
Hey, I'm all in, because again, I think we all need to understand where we all have come from before we can move forward. And you are being an advocate for that helps not only with how we do business, but how our young people grow and move forward into the future. So again, kudos to you. Now, you recently shared a Safety and Security Committee the issue of deed fraud. What is it, and what is your office doing to help combat that concern?
So unbeknownst to me, this was not something I was aware of until I took office. People in Fairfax County are having fraudsters try to sell out their property from under them. There have been multiple attempts at this since I took office. We get numerous phone calls from concerned residents that are either finding their property listed online or they're being contacted by people. And there's been a successful case. So I have a duty to act on this. That is something I brought up during the safety and security meeting that we recently attended. It is our top priority. My office is working along with Jay Doshi in the Department of Tax Administration and the Fairfax County Police to create a notification system. So that if there's any movement on someone's property record and they're enrolled in My Fairfax, they will be notified about that right away. There's a lot that can happen if you find out right away and there's swift action taken. So I think we have a duty to act. That's why I've prioritized that as my next initiative.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic, because we do have a lot of that going on, and our population is growing older, and they're staying in place. Unbeknownst to many people, people think people are leaving Fairfax County. Our population is continually growing. People don't leave, and people are coming in. So kudos to you and your team.
The other problem too is it's happening to a lot of vacant properties, and sometimes people don't realize what's happening in that land tract that they've got down in Lorton until it's too late.
Okay, now let's like pivot a little bit. So share with those watching and listening, what is the relationship between the Circuit Court and the General District Juvenile Domestic Relation Court? Because, you know, I love Penny Oscarate. I love the fact that she likes llamas, but she's got a lot of control over there. We got to talk about that offline too. Just want to let you know. I hope she's listening when she hears me say that.
Shout outs to my dynamic chief judge. But no, I appreciate that question. I wish I had a chart that I could show right now. But if you think of our court system at the Fairfax County Courthouse building, think about the bottom level, if it's a food pyramid, being our Fairfax General District Court and our Fairfax Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court. Those are our entry-level courts. Circuit Court is above those two. So if someone doesn't like the result, they get in General District Court. either because it was a civil case with that dealt with under $50,000 in controversy, or for the most part, misdemeanor criminal matter, they have the right to appeal that case to circuit court. We're the next court up. So same thing in the juvenile domestic relations court. That's the court that deals with your custody, your child support case. It's protective orders between people that have a child in common or are living together. They have the right to appeal it to the circuit court, and you get a whole new trial. It's called a trial de novo in circuit court. So we're one level up from them.
Well, you got a lot going on over there. So
just a little bit.
You have an exciting future in the circuit court projects being planned. I mean, you and I have spoken. You have multiple projects you're planning. You're redoing the office. This is your opportunity to highlight some of them.
So one that we're really excited about, and I give a lot of credit to our Chief Judge, Judge Ascarati, is utilizing AI technology in our courtrooms for speech to text. So many people may not realize this, but the people that are representing themselves that I mentioned earlier sometimes do not realize that they need to have a court reporter if they want to have a record of what happened in their court proceedings. That's guaranteed in criminal cases. Again, it's not guaranteed in civil matters. So the idea that our chief judge had is have AI speech-to-text technology that creates a record in the courtroom so that civil litigants could then get that record, and if there's an agreement between the parties, they can use it as their record to the next court up, your Court of Appeals, your Virginia Supreme Court, and it then gives them that record which they might be missing otherwise. It's also assisted people that are in the deaf and hard of hearing community. So I think there's great potential use for AI speech technology in the courtroom.
So I'm gonna ask this question, and it might not make any sense, but how are you doing all of these neat things around our general legislature, who typically tries to control and or Dillonize our way of doing business, the Dillon rule state? So how are you working around all of these rules and regulations to help our residents as well as all others that want to move into Fairfax County? Because it's awesome.
So I appreciate it. What we do is we keep all of our delegation informed about what we're doing. My office is not private sector. I'm telegraphing the passes, right? I'm letting everyone know exactly what we're going to be doing and keeping them informed, asking them for buy-in, asking them for support.
Okay.
This is an office, the Clerk of the Circuit Court. It's one of the 3 constitutional offices we have here in Fairfax County, along with our sheriff and our Commonwealth's attorney. And I think it has a lot of ability to, help people and to transform lives. And what we're trying to do over this year is show people how much we can get done. But no, I definitely tie in all of our state delegates and our senators. We've had them visit, most of them. We want you to visit next. You're next on the list. But we're just keeping them informed about what we're doing and asking for support along the way.
Excellent job. Excellent job. Chris Falcon, thank you. And I'm going to keep calling you Falcon, but in public, I'll call you Falcon. But friend to friend is Falcon, because I'm honoring your lineage and your people. But doing it the same way and expecting a different result is not Chris. And I love that. And well, that's going to do it for this episode of Connect with County Leaders podcast. Many thanks to my friend Chris Falcon, AKA Falcon, Clerk of Court for the Fairfax County Circuit Court. And thanks to you for being here. I look forward to talking with you again next month on Connect with County Leaders, and hopefully I have an engaging guest just as you, like you.
Bryan, thank you so much for
having me.
Pleasure, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, man.